All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm super excited for this week's Let's Talk Business. I have the beautiful, talented, smart Ms. Victoria Downs with me today. As you know, Let's Talk Business is an opportunity for entrepreneurs, mostly female entrepreneurs, to have a real conversation around business, our passion, what fuels us, the challenges that we face, as well as what are some of the things that we help our customers with. So I really want to take a moment to just acknowledge Ms. Victoria for joining me today. I'm super excited to hear more about what you do, how you've been overcoming in 2020, and what are some of the challenges that your customers are facing right now.
All right. Glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So, for anyone that's watching, I would love for them to hear a little bit more about you, about your business, and how long you've been in entrepreneurship.
Okay. You want the long version or the short version? How much time do we have? Um, I'll do a short one. So thank you for the introduction. My name is Victoria Downs. I am a certified business coach and the founder of The Village Creative. And I help women, particularly women of color, level up their coaching and consulting businesses by identifying and monetizing strategic opportunities in their business to increase profit, build sustainability, and achieve the freedom and the wealth that they desire in their lives. So, in a nutshell, that's my job. I've been an entrepreneur. So I've been a part-time entrepreneur for almost 15 years.
Mhm.
And I got pushed into full-time entrepreneurship in April of 2020, because my job ended. So I've always had a full-time job. As even when I had like six-figure businesses, I was still clocking in and clocking out somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
But my last position, so my corporate background is in human resources and project management. And my last corporate position was for Elizabeth Warren. I was a national human resources manager for the presidential campaign that just ended. So when her campaign ended, my job ended, and of course it coincided with the start of the pandemic. So I ended up just taking it as a sign from God and the universe and just going full time with my coaching business.
Well, that is pretty fantastic. And honestly, I'm glad that you people are going to have the opportunity to hear that you can have them both. Like, I feel as if that can be downplayed so much, and people just sign themselves up for the struggle without understanding if you are able to do something that one you either love or doesn't make you sick, because I'm not saying to just, I mean, sometimes you have to just man through it and push through it. But if you are able to do something and still build a sustainable business, it may take some sacrifices or some adjustments. And I would love for you to even share on, like, how did you balance them both? But I feel as if sometimes that can be just overlooked, because there is a lot of value in being able to strategically do a business. Because even if you decide to go into entrepreneurship full time, if you don't even have the basic disciplines, it's like you're going to learn a very fast lesson on, like, how to do it. Yeah. So how were you able to balance them both?
It's been, there's no perfect science to it. So I have three children. And when I launched my first business that went all the way to six figures, I had two children. I had a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I think for me, balancing working a full-time job, being a mom to two young children, having to travel for my business, like I was going to trade shows 2 to 3 times a month. So I was using all my earned time at work, trying to act like I'm sick, but I'm really in Florida at a trade show because, but then you do what you have to do. But also balancing being a mom, for me, what really helped was my village. I had an amazing partner. I have an amazing partner who basically was like, what you want to do when you want to do it? All right, we'll figure it out. you know. So that to me has been the blessing of my entrepreneurship journey, because I don't think I would have been able to do any other things I've been able to do without support. And balancing your two roles, as in, you know, you're a part-time entrepreneur and you're a full-time employee, you do what you can when you can. There's a saying, people say, you know, you go to work for 9 to 5 and then you come home from 6 to 12 in your own business. Sometimes you do that, and you may do that for 6 months. You may do that for a year before you start to see some real traction in your business. But I tell my clients all the time, you know, you'll get out of your business what you put into it. And if you have to work a full-time job in order to support your dream, again, you do what you have to do till you get to do what you want to do, but knowing that you're investing all of this time and energy and money and everything you're doing to build your business right now so you can reap the fruits in the future. Like, you're basically sowing a seed for your future. It's doable. It's going to be tough. You may not sleep some days. You may forget to eat. You may not see your children, you know, but it's part of that. It's part of the journey. And when the success comes for you, it's so sweet because your labor has been so tedious, you know? And that's really how I feel about it. Like, I don't know one person who is an entrepreneur who had a straight journey. Everything it's a roller coaster. And, you know, I have a coach who said to me, if you haven't cried about your business, you're not really doing business. So yeah.
I agree. There were so many points of what you just said that I could totally like dig into. And like the first thing that even stuck out to me is the importance of having a village and having a support system. Because if you look on the algorithm at the right time is going to say, don't tell no one your secrets, don't, like, you just surprise them and da da da, and people crush your dreams and your goals. It's like this whole negative meaning and vibe about sharing and letting people know what's up in your world. So like, how were you able to enroll people into like supporting you being your best version?
Yeah. You know, my entire journey has been a blessing, and I think God knew who I was going to be when he, you know, blessed my mother with me, or blessed me with my mother, however you want to look at it. And coming up, I had the best examples of entrepreneurship. My mother ran her own travel agency for decades. And when she was done doing that, she became a pastor and ran her own church for like another decade. So my example was of this woman who was, I don't like the word hustler because it sounds like you're just toiling and not getting anything, but she was doing it. And for me, it was like, that's what I want to do. So when I met my partner and growing up in my family, so my family's entrepreneurship oriented as well. My older brother is used to be a CFO for some, you know, Fortune 500 company. He left and started his own joint. And my other brother is a web designer. So like, everybody kind of does their own, everyone has that entrepreneurship bug or entrepreneurial spirit. So when it came time for me, and I'll tell you the story about my first business. My first business was an organic skincare company that came out of trying to solve my daughter's eczema. So I'm originally from Nigeria, so I went back to Nigeria, got some shea butter, cooked the stuff up in the kitchen, and boom, we had a business. So when I got overwhelmed with, I'm doing all these, before we got to, you know, achieve real success, I was going to flea markets. I was doing Sunday markets, like yard markets, yard shows rather. And I had a conversation with my brother, who the accountant, and I'm like, I'm really overwhelmed. I know I have something, people are buying it. And he was able to use his experience, his finances, and his connections to help me build my business. So that was, you know, like, it's fundamental to us as a people. Like, when you find your tribe and you find your village that just goes hard for you, like I said, my partner, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So like, I can start one business and it's doing well, and the next thing you know is I'm starting a whole new one. And he just looks and goes, really, Victoria? Okay, fine. What do you want to do? So finding those kind of people who will support you, but will also check you, right? When you need to be checked. But the people who go, you know what, you've got something, let's build. Because as we build, we grow. And we're not just building for ourselves, we're building for the future generations.
Yeah.
So I think for me, my journey has been a blessing because God put in place those people for me. I mean, I remember having packaging parties at my, because the fulfillment center for the business was my living room, so my cousins would come over and we'd be packaging products. So it's been such a blessing to have people who hold you up, right? People who take care of your kids so you can travel, or I had a friend who traveled with me to LA to go do an Oscar party, uh, because I had the products, and I was just so nervous to be in like LA to me was foreign. I'm in Boston,
Yeah.
and she took time off of work and traveled with me. So what I'm trying to say is, like, even if the tribe is not, like, you weren't born with the tribe, you weren't born with that village, when you find those people that support you and rock with you and push you forward, hold on to them tight, because that's what's really going to help you in your business.
And I think the key part to it too, of even everything you shared, is like your tribe has to also be up to something. Like I feel this if like sometimes they're like, oh, I can't share, I can't, because then the people who are around really aren't, like, so of course it's going to be
It
the
shows.
yeah, that's all they know. So their response isn't based off of them thinking you can be a success. Sometimes it's based off of their consistency and failures or setbacks. So they're pushing it on you. So
Right.
it's those times where you really have to take a moment to just look and see, like, are the people that I'm really around on a day-to-day basis truly up to something in their lives? It doesn't even have to be entrepreneurship. It can just be something in their life.
Yeah.
Because then ultimately, when people are winning or making progress, they like to be around people that are winning and making progress. But if everyone around you is kind of pretty humdrum and pretty,
Mhm.
I was and just essentially stuck, for lack of
Mhm.
better wording. And of course, if you're like, oh, I have this great idea, I really want to do this, they're like, well, that's stupid. You know what's going on in 2020, and you shouldn't even do that. Da, 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 da. And
Mhm.
they're going to poo all over your party because they have given up, and
Yeah.
you're taking if you don't make a proper assessment of your surroundings and the people that are around you and what they're really up to, then it's like, maybe I really might need to get into certain groups and get into
Right.
networking, or okay, if this person poos all over my party, I get it that that's just their experience of life and it doesn't have to be mine. So either
Right.
separating what they say from who they are, or starting to get a circle that will really understand what you're up to.
Right. I couldn't agree more. That is so true. Making sure that you have those checkpoints. And just to add on to what you said, you're not just checking in the beginning of that relationship. You have to have ongoing checks to make sure that you're still in alignment with the people who are in your circle.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes people grow up and they grow, like, you grow apart, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the friends I was rocking with in 2005 who were traveling all over the country with me now have other priorities. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So making sure that your circle is not gone beyond its expiration date.
Yeah. And if it does, it's fine. Like it doesn't
Yep.
have to be like, I think that sometimes can be the tone is like, well, I've just outgrown you, duh, duh, duh. And it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
that. Like, wish a person well, even if
Yeah.
they reach out, still be pleasant, but also not, and then also don't look at them like I'm better than, because it's not about being better than anyone. It's just realizing and recognizing that some people are going to choose to feel stuck and choose to be in a certain
Mhm.
situation. You cannot change anybody or pull
Right.
anyone along with you because they're going to
No,
dig their feet in more, and it is going to frustrate you trying to pull someone along that don't even want to be taken
I
along.
don't want to go with you. Right. So true. So true. I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So as far as like coaching and things of that nature, what are some of the challenges that usually people come to you facing when they're like, I need to get a coach now?
So a lot of my clients come to me with, it's funny, they have a pain point or a problem, I need marketing, right? And then you get into the conversation and you're like, how's your model? What's your business model? Oh, I don't know. Who's your target audience? I know, do you know what I mean? So it's like, and then there's mindset that goes with all of that. So even though folks come to me, most of my folks come to me with marketing concerns or wanting to build a marketing strategy. We do a lot of work around, and it all leads up and builds into your marketing, but like there's a lot of mindset work that has to happen because you have to be able to envision the possibility before you put it out there. And so we do a lot of mindset work as well as messaging, which then culminates, and also reviewing the model and making sure the model is profitable. So my job as a coach is to help my clients get from to their next level. So yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it definitely did. And so with like, do you find that most people are coming to you before? I'm going to assume that they're coming to you already are in business and realizing they need a coach. But
Yeah.
are they coming to you before they started, or are they coming to you like already in the sauce and like, okay, it's not working?
Well, a lot of my folks come to me when they've already started. So they have an established business. I have one or two clients who were not online prior to COVID at all. So they came to work with me to build an online presence, and we're maintaining the presence going forward. But a lot of clients come to me already established, and it's like, you know what, the algorithms change every 2 seconds. I don't know what I'm doing. I just wanted somebody else to do it. And that's what we help them with.
Real talk. Like I tell people,
Yep.
like before COVID, so I have an event planning. Well, it's not event planning. I help provide solutions for apartment complexes. That's what I do. So with a lot of the newer buildings, they're building community, they're building lifestyle. It's not just pay rent and buy. You know, they're trying to do little things so that one, people have a relationship with their neighbors, but also they love where they live, braggable moments, referrals, retention, all of that plays a part, especially if you're going to charge them 3,000, crazy amounts of rent.
Right.
You got to do something a little bit more. And so with COVID, it totally like the event industry is probably going to be the ones that is hurt the longest out of all of them because no one wants the liability of it. It's not even about anything that goes on in government. Beforehand, we had to have millions of dollars of insurance anyway, just in case someone did something stupid or wanted to sue you. And now we're like, well, I definitely don't want someone trying to.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
I tell that joke with my friends. I'm like, corporate world, we're not thinking about what public sector. Like for us, it's like, okay, how do I protect my brand right now? I have to look like I'm being responsible. I have to look like we're doing our due diligence because it's more of a making people feel good right now. But with all that being said, like one of the things that before COVID, I was definitely one of those kind of people like, I do not like to figure things. I'll figure things out, but I don't want to figure out how to do the algorithm. I would quickly be like, let me hire someone to do this. But also when I would have people come and talk to me about this is how Let's Talk Business actually started, is that a lot of people find themselves stuck on not even knowing that they don't know. They'll be in business and just like, oh, let me put this on this social media platform and think that, oh, this person sold $1 million of product and why didn't I? But then you don't understand how they went about their marketing, who they're really trying to target. Like you can't have this wide net and expect something that's going to stick. Where like people are like, how did you come up a niche? I'm like, because if you figure out a niche, you stay your lane and you just push forward. And it's easier to problem solve like when you have obstacles because you understand who that person is, you understand what they're willing to pay, their pain points, what they're really looking to solve, and then you figure that out. But do you find that a lot of times people don't even want to, like they're afraid to niche down, or to like, what is the barrier that you find that people are facing?
I mean, I think when you talk about niching down, it's definitely a scary conversation for a lot of businesses because they feel like they're excluding people.
Mm,
They feel like, oh, well, their money is green too. Well, it is. But if you wanted to eat salmon, would you go to the Atlantic Ocean? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
mm,
the more specific you get, you need to be speaking to one person in one voice. If I'm your client, as I'm scrolling, I should stop in my tracks
mm,
because your message is designed for me. But if you're speaking to everybody, well, then nobody's going to look because do you know what I mean? Like when you're
mm,
throwing it out there, and I think people are like, well, if so let's say I'm a business coach and I want to niche down. So I work with Black women,
mm,
but on my timeline is everybody is a diversity party. And while there's nothing wrong with that,
mm.
I'm going to keep attracting the people who my heart doesn't desire to vibe with.
Yeah.
And trying to explain that to someone, I mean, I've had obviously like they come around, and that's part of trusting the process because sometimes they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And when you come into this process, part of the work that we do, the grounding work, is you got to trust me. um I'm here because I want to see you win. And this process is going to feel uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you to take some dollars off the table. I'm going to tell you to take some offers off the table. But in the big picture, this is going to move the brand forward. So having those conversations sometimes can be difficult because folks feel like they're excluding or they're leaving money somewhere or they could be making money.
Mm,
But you can make a little bit of money throwing yourself all over the place. But when you really niche down, like you have a targeted niche, you know who you're talking to when you're speaking, like you're looking at her every day and talking to her directly. She's
mm,
going to respond to you. And that's how your business will grow. That's how your business will scale. So it takes longer with some people than others, but
mm.
for the most part, I'm thankful that I'm blessed with clients who trust me enough to trust my process and see the vision as we go along.
Yeah, and it is true because like it can be something that's scary for people, but what you also will find is that especially for service based, because there is a different conversation between service based and product based. Because like with me with doing
Sure.
events, people I don't even like using event planners because then people are like, oh, you do birthday party? No, I do not. Like I don't do that
Weddings, yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like I applaud people that can, but I like corporate money, so I just do corporate events, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
lane that I stay. And so in the beginning, I wasn't willing to make that decision, but when I started getting more personal events and people wanting the world for super small budgets because they saw something on Pinterest and not understanding that it was going to cost them thousands of dollars to do a big old wall with paper flowers that are going to go in the trash at the end of the event. You know, like, and there's no
Yeah.
shortcut to it. You know, so are
Yeah.
you willing to legitimately burn $1,000 and just for 2 hours of pretty? But a lot of times people aren't willing to do that. And so what I would find myself is when before I created my niche, it was taking on things just to take them on, but then hating it because it wasn't what I really wanted to do. And so one of the things that I find that's really important for entrepreneurs is understanding that all money isn't good money.
Mm.
And it's like if you're doing this for a passion, it's better to do things in your passion than just doing anything for money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. All money is not good money, and it may be green, but like, yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. One of the things that I walk my clients through, especially if they're fairly new and they don't have a marketing strategy, is your who, your what, the 5W framework. I don't know if you've heard about it, but like your
Mm-mm.
who, your what, your when, your who, what, when, where, why.
Okay.
So who do you serve? how do you serve them, which is the where, how do you deliver your products, your when do you serve them? Are they night crawlers? Are they daytime people? Are they a certain profession that you have to adjust your timeline for? Did I say what do you serve them with? I'm sorry, I'm like messing up the W's in my head. But I think the most important one is the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this work? Why are you choosing to work with the people you want to work with? Why are you creating this product? Because if you can hone in on your why, it'll help to define your path. Because then you'll understand that not all money is good money. And if it doesn't align with my why, and if it doesn't align with my passion, if it doesn't fulfill my soul, it's going to burn me out. Mm-hmm. So staying in your lane and your zone of genius, like that's where you shine. Stay there. And your clients, and part of the work that we do too is teaching the clients to position themselves rather than prospecting. Because when you position yourself, people will come to you. All you have to do is establish yourself and just basically just sit back and wait for them to come, because they will come because you're talking to them. Do you know what I mean? So making sure that they know what their why is. And when the little shiny objects along the road, you see, you're like, ooh, maybe I should take that project because it's a quick $300-400. That's the project that's going to take you the longest. That's a project that's going to be the most time intensive. That's a project that's going to suck up the most energy. Them clients are going to be the biggest. You know what I mean? Like it just comes with a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
But when you're operating in your purpose, when you're aligned with your why and your mission and your passion, it doesn't feel like work anymore. And it's for me, that's the goal, Yeah,
and you see the phone number, and you're like,
not today.
I don't want it. Message and then let me see exactly what they're going to say to decipher if I need to call them today or tomorrow.
Yep. Nope. And like sometimes, not to knock the people who are just like, I'm just started and I just want to make some money, like I get that. Like when we're just starting, sometimes you don't know what you like. So you're going to have to try a few different things out, and you're going to have to try. I just had a call with a client of mine, a check-in call with a client right before I got on the call with you. And she was like, I don't like one-to-one coaching. Cool. If you didn't do it, you wouldn't realize that you don't like it. Mm-hmm. So now that you know you don't like it, figure out how to do more of the things that you do like. So sometimes there's an exploratory period where you're like, I don't know what I like. I can do so many things. So let me try it all. Or you just want to make some money. I'm not knocking either of those. Yeah. But if you have the ability to really hone in on what you love, and you can focus in on the thing that drives your why, your passion, your mission, that's building a sustainable business, because your why is what's going to get you through the valleys. Right? So it's helping you to build a sustainable business, and it's helping you to build the right foundation for your business, because your audience will know that you're talking to them. Yeah.
And I agree, because so one of the things I've had to do due to my event business is going to do what it's going to do. Like we're going to have sales up, down. Like I'm just YOLO with it at this point. Hey, people know about us. I'm going to get sales, whatever. And so I'm like, my business coach, I do have a business coach myself. And he's like, so what are you going to do next then? Since we know the industry is just going to be shook for a while. And it's going to be like this hamster wheel. What do you want to do next? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like my whole identity had been stuck to this one brand. So I kept exploring. I know that on my social media platforms, I get a lot of engagement and people asking questions. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be, I knew what I didn't want to be. I was like, I don't want to be this influencer that's not being authentic. Like I used to model, so I know how to take pictures, but sister girlfriend, this is as much makeup I put on. Like I don't do, like, I'm not extra. I'm just not. And nothing's wrong with anyone that is, but I just know that that's not me. And I started sharing about me being a minimalist and like how I'm very simple in my life. And then I started getting questions about it. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. And then it started exploring, like, this can be a thing, because I know that it's one, not a lot of melanated individuals in that space at all. And I'm like, okay, so that's automatically going to help me stand out. And then two, a lot of times within that realm, people tend to wear very neutral, sterile-ish looking clothes. And so I am not that. I wear bright colors. I love a lot of boldness and things like that. And so I was like, wow, what would it be like to be able to impact women so they can see someone as realistic, shift the narrative of what the lifestyle is, because a lot of times, especially on social media, is about get more things, have this perspective. And unfortunately, you know, like from business, then it means the person can be losing out on a ton of money because they're buying into this image more or less than really fulfilling what their business is and what their purpose is. And so I just share that because it's like digging into why you're doing things. Because now I can organically think about, like, it makes it so much easier to think about, okay, what am I going to share? Like something that's simple for me. Like I think for entrepreneurs, it's like thinking of things that are simple for you to create, that it flows through you because you're like, oh, I didn't even think about, like I took a picture of my spice cabinet and like my cabinets. And they're like, how do you keep your kitchen cabinets clear? And I was like, how do you not? You know, it's like almost second nature. So even with you coaching or being a serial entrepreneur, it's like we all have something that's natural for us. And it's easier when your why and what you're doing is just almost second nature. So it doesn't have to be dreadful. Even if it is just to make money.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And congratulations on your pivot. You know, and of course your event planning business will come back when it's ready. When the time is come for it. But you know, I think that's such a beautiful demonstration of when, like, you illustrated almost like I could see you and I could see you in the brand. And of course I follow you on social media, so I see all the beautiful colors. But I could see in my mind's eye as you were describing it, how authentic it feels to just be able to talk. Right. And when you're speaking to one person, you know who that one person is. It's like having a conversation with a girlfriend. It's like a conversation like this, you know, because I know what your struggle is. I know what your pain point is. I know what your problem is. And here I come with the solution. So we're just talking about it. So you don't have to sit and sweat about, what am I going to say? What am I going to record today? Oh my gosh, I got to go live again. Like, do you know what I mean? Like all of that anxiety is removed from you because you are dealing with the person who is in tune with you. And it removes all of that extra because it doesn't need to be there.
Exactly. And then that also, and like, and if you don't have like that clarity, I mean, this is where having a coach, because I feel like one of the things, like when someone ever reaches out to me, I'm like, get someone that knows your industry, get someone that understands, like, because even when I'll tell people, like, there's a difference between having a coach that's had a physical business, like you've had experience with, you know, like with coaching people, and then you've also had your own business, because sometimes people come straight into it and their business is only coaching. So where with someone like myself that does face-to-face and is service-based, you may not even know how to, like, there's different levels to it. You know, so.
Sorry, I was saying, go ahead.
No, I was like, so it's like knowing, like going to a coach, because even like if someone was doing manufacturing and you're in warehousing, you need to get a coach that has had has had businesses that are storefronts. You know, because it's a different space.
It totally is. Like there's some people who are really good with, you know, translating their framework and their methods like across industries. But I feel like there's some industry. So you can't come to me and ask me how to start a fashion line. I won't know what to tell you about nothing. Like we'd be Googling together. You know what I mean? Because it's not something that's intuitive to me or something I'm even remotely interested in. I want the finished fashion, but the process is not interesting to me at all. So you want to make sure that your coach at least has the experience of the industry that you're currently in, or can speak to that industry. Because I mean, you learn in different ways. So some people learn by experience and some people learn by education. And I mean, all of it is education. But some people go to school and they learn, and they learn from other people who've been in those industries. So just make sure that whoever you choose to work with has the knowledge and or the experience. If they have both, great. If not, make sure they have the knowledge, and make sure that you can see from their testimonials that they've worked with somebody like you. As much as, so think about like when you go to like a teaching hospital, for instance. Like I used to work at a teaching hospital here in Boston, and we have the attending doctors and you have the residents who are still in medical school but are able to practice. Mm-hmm. I prefer an attendant personally, because somebody said he's good to go. Yeah. So I use this, and it might be a terrible analogy, but I use it to talk about coaching. Like, you don't want to be your coach's first client.
Yeah.
As much as they have to gain the experience, I don't want to be the one they learn on, because my time, my money, all of those things are important to me. And I don't want to be somebody's training lab. Yeah. And not to disparage new coaches. So I work with some coaches in my practice too, so please don't be mad at me. You'll get the clients. Yeah. But some of the things that I tell them too is get your experience up and build your social proof by either offering free sessions, testing out your products, your services. There's other ways to do it without, having somebody pay you a high ticket price for your whatever. So I'm not disparaging those who are new to the game, but if you're an entrepreneur who's looking for guidance and you're looking for support, you want to make sure that the person that you choose to invest in, who's now going to invest back in you, has the ability to do so.
Yeah, and that's very, and I'm glad that this even came up, because I don't think on any of my other calls I've had this, because I mean, like my coach, like one of us does set designs. Of course, me and my event planner, another one's a chiropractor, someone does roofing. So we're very service-based businesses. Does he tell us about algorithms and social media? That is not his jam. He'll tell you how to do a sales funnel, how to do your, the marketing calls. Like he shows you that, because that is actually what's necessary when it is like face-to-face service. Mm-hmm. It's a different marketing structure than if I'm just on social media, engaging, you share, you buy, you click, and then we move on. It's a whole different space.
Right. No, that's so true. Yep. And they, just like the entrepreneur, as you're saying, focus on stay in your zone of genius. Coaches have to do the same thing too. If you're a sales coach, that's what you're good at. If you're a marketing coach, that's what you're good at. You may be able to work your clients through other aspects using your framework, but what you're good at. So if somebody comes to you and say, well, I want to get into Whole Foods, and you have no experience with, getting a product into Whole Foods, then you're probably not the right coach, Yeah.
Yeah. Like merchandising, I have to have SKUs. Like, what's
that mean? Yeah. So, yeah.
You have to be present to it. So for you, what's your biggest passion for coaching and having your business?
I think for me, my passion is Black women. Mm-hmm. And I think in this environment, and sadly, it's been this way, it's been worse. It probably will get worse before it gets better. Mm-hmm. Black women remain like the group of women, the group of people who, in my personal and professional opinion, work the hardest, but we're compensated the least. Mm-hmm. And not just like in the corporate workspace, but like when we go for the contracts, or even something as simple as somebody arguing with you on Facebook as to why your price is what your price is. Mm-hmm. When nobody would have the audacity to even attempt to argue with Walmart or H&M or whatever other company it is that's in your industry. So it's like we're so undervalued that we've taken on this conditioning as part of our identity. And very few women really use their voice. to advocate for themselves and to speak up for themselves and to really own their spaces. So, and part of my experience has been coming out of my comfort zone to use my voice and really craft a space for myself and really like just I belong here, and whatever I want to do, I'm entitled to do it. Like I have a right to do it just like you do, or just like the next man to me does. So my passion is definitely Black women. And that's one of the reasons I got into coaching, because I would have conversations with women and their dreams and their aspirations. And we talk about their skills and we talk about just badass things that they're doing. And when the conversation of, or when the topic of entrepreneurship comes up, it's like we shrink into ourselves because there's a fear of doing something different, because we're not the ones that we see all the time in those spaces. Yeah. You know, there's very few of us. I mean, there's more of us now, thankfully, but like there's still that apprehension about, you know, investing in a business or starting a business because the reward is not guaranteed. Yeah. And if, you know, if we need to take chances on ourselves. So my job is, when you get to that space of stagnancy, where you're like, you're getting ready to quit because you've done everything you know how to do, let's figure it out. Because if you can get to this point, you can get to the next point and the next one and the next one. So that's what drives me. And then the successes, to see like my clients doing well and to see them thriving. And I had a closeout session yesterday, and to hear, just to want to bear witness to the growth, but then to hear the change in mindset and like how much more open, you know, she is to the possibilities of her business, because she's seen that change over the last 60 days. It's the most amazing feeling. And if there's enough of us who just put our stakes in the ground and say, we're not going nowhere, and thankfully there's more of us doing it, I think that we can really change the landscape of what business looks like.
And that's what's so beautiful. And that's great that you even shared that, because it is something that's necessary. I mean, I go into most of the meetings and I don't look, I mean, and it wasn't even honestly until the whole conversation opened up this year that certain platforms I've been attending, they reached out and like, Jesse, I really didn't even realize that most of our speakers are older white men. I was like, yes, that's what real estate is. And then I'm going in trying to look as conservative as I can to sell what I can do. I'm like, but it never even connected for people like that's what it is. And to see that that's what you're passionate about, I think that that's great, because sometimes it really isn't that support that can be there. And also the fact that you said that, you know, once you get stuck, you push through. Like, I think that there can be this falsehood on it's an arrival. And no, there's going to be like, okay, we're grooving. Boom, I got stuck. Got grooving, stuck. And I feel like when we stop learning or having the support, especially like right now, I can only imagine if someone that does not have a coach or hasn't decided to get a coach in 2020 and you don't have the best support system, I don't know what's happening in that person's life, if anything, because you do need like that kind of coach. Be it someone that you're working with, or if you have a mentor or some type of support, because if we're left to our own devices while we're by ourselves, I mean, even therapists have therapists.
Yep. Very true. I have a coach. My coach has a coach.
Yeah.
His coach has a coach, because, you know, if you're not learning, you're dying slowly.
Yeah.
And the same applies in business. If your business is not growing, if your business is not positioned for growth and you're stagnant and you're stuck, you're dying a slow death.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that. So there's always, I mean, I'm going to be 40 next year. So I'm like out of that. I don't want to go to school anymore. I don't want to take any more classes, but here's what I do every day. I'm watching somebody's lunch and learn. I'm watching somebody's master class. Because there's always something new to learn. And I watch these things and I'm like, I've been in business almost 15 years and there's some things that I still don't know, you know? So definitely, like, even if you can't, you're not financially able to invest in a coach, make a point to have some form of education. Maybe you read books. Maybe
Mhm.
you buy the DIY courses. They're $19 courses that can teach you to do one specific thing. But you need to invest in yourself, and you need to invest in your business, or you're really just navigating blindly, because
Yeah,
the rules of engagement are not the same, and they change every day.
for sure.
Yeah.
They do. And like I just really even got onto Skillshare. I don't know if you heard of Skillshare before.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
even I was like, you know what, let me just pay this membership for Skillshare. I'm like, because
Wonderful.
yeah, like I need to understand Pinterest because with the event planning world, I'm like, where do people go to get information about their parties?
That's
Pinterest.
true.
Who needs to have some pins to direct people? I mean, like specifically geared towards my niche. You know, I'm not going to just be
Yeah.
posting everything, but specifically to my niche on Pinterest. Do I understand Pinterest? Very remotely. So I'm like, let me go on Pinterest, like go on Skillshare and learn and educate myself enough and at least get the groundwork starting. So then, of course, I can hire someone to then take it on because I don't want to do it forever, you know. But
Right.
I mean, the goal is
But
not.
at least, so I mean, not to cut you off, but that's a
No.
really great point. Before you hand it over, you learned it,
Yeah,
you tried it, and then you realize, and this ain't for me.
yeah, hmm,
But if you're a person in the middle of the night, you can pick up your stuff and keep it going. So you replace that person. And that's
yeah,
like, I tell my clients that too. Like, as you grow, you're not just growing to outsource, or you're not just like delegating your task to somebody else to do for you. You should know how to do everything you're asking somebody else to do.
hmm,
If you're running a business, you should be a jack of all trades, but you should focus on one. But if you needed to step into the customer service role, you step into it. If you
hmm.
need to go back in the back and fry some chicken, then you go back and fry some chicken. But make sure that you have that knowledge. And then if you figure out that this ain't for me, I don't want to do it anymore, then you can outsource. Then you should outsource.
And then also too, you'll be able to set up some kind of process, you know,
Yep.
because like even when someone's starting out by themselves, like going into it, like, okay, I'm gonna have to do it all, but let me figure out systems and processes so that when I bring someone else on, they're not just figuring it out and you're wasting money and time. You know, for paying someone to create one, it's better to give them something and then they can help with input to make it better. So having some type of structure makes a huge, huge difference for working by yourself and expanding because the goal is
Yeah.
not to do it all yourself. Whoever's
Yeah.
watching this that needs to hear this, the goal is not to do it all yourself. There's joy to just letting people do them, you know, do their thing. Uh,
Way to putting down the cape.
Yes, it is. And so I just have two more questions for you. So the first question that I would love to know in the next 5 years, what would you like to see happen with your business or your brand?
So my 5-year plan for my business is to build it out to be able to bring on other coaches who are specialties in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have an emotional intelligence coach on board to work with folks. I would love to have a health and wellness coach on the team, because business is not just about business. Like, you have to sustain the business, but you also have to sustain your soul, you have to sustain your mind, and you have to sustain your body. So I would love to have all of that in house. That's one of my goals. And then also to build out. So I didn't mention this, so I may have, I don't remember. Um, I also own and manage a VA agency, a virtual assistant agency that
Mm-hmm.
complements my coaching. Because a lot of folks come to me for marketing, and social media is one of those things that people don't want to do. Like, they
Yeah.
try it and they figure out the same for me, and they want to outsource. So one of the things I've done is I have an in-house virtual assistant agency with virtual assistants who will then take on the implementation of whatever it is you want to outsource. So that
Mm-hmm.
way you're not having to talk to your coach and then having to go pass on the message. You have your brainstorming, your strategy, your implementation in the same place. So building that out to continue to support my clients.
Fantastic. I love that. Yes. I love that big goal. Like to have people working on it like that. Like I'll digress, but I think that that is fantastic because like that's major. Like duplication. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like I think that sometimes that's another thing we don't talk about. Like, or I think people think like this big name person that they're dealing only with that person. No, like it's,
Oh, there's a whole team. Whole, people will use Beyonce as an example all the time. She's got the same 24 hours. No, she doesn't. That's so unrealistic. Like
mm,
Beyonce has a whole army of people who
mm,
support her every day.
yeah.
So there's no way on God's earth I'm comparing my 24 hours to Beyonce's. No way.
Mm,
Like it's not even on this. There's no. Doesn't make
yeah.
sense. So I agree with you so much. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was like, yeah, that's so unrealistic to think that somebody who is doing it big and making 7, 8, 9 figures is a one man team. That's not possible.
No, yeah. Like I don't know. No. Whenever people like no, someone actually had reached out to me recently. Was like, Jesse, can you help me writing my emails? And I'm like, okay. It's like he's like because you're such a great writer. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't know I outsourced that. I was like, I
Let
can
me give
proofread.
you my person's name.
I was like, I can direct you. I'm like, I can kind of read it, but is
I can
that
make
my
a
strong
correction.
suit? No, it's not.
That speaks to your writer, your copywriter. They're doing a great job.
I was like, no. I'm like, you can clearly tell when Jesse writes and someone else writes. Like, and it's not bad. It is what it is. But it does take understanding when to outsource. And so then the last question that I would like to ask to wrap up is, what is one thing that you've learned through 2020 as of right now?
Ooh, time is a gift.
Mm,
And 2020, although it wasn't the year that I planned for, has been the biggest gift of all in so many different ways. When 2020 first hit, like I was in church, like a lot of other people, like you're
yeah.
optimistic and you're making your plans and you're setting your resolutions. And I remember I have a note on my phone about this is what we're gonna do in 2020, like we turn it all the way up. And for me, part of that was we going to the White House. We
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
So and then the pandemic hit, and of course there's that period, that dip where you're just, it feels like it's closing in on itself. And not to say that like the world is still not on fire, because it definitely is on fire, but I've been able to shift from the place of the world is on fire, woe is me, to, oh my gosh, these are opportunities for me to explore things that I hadn't had time to explore. I have a 2-year-old son that prior to COVID, we'd be out the house by 5:30 a.m. He'd be in daycare by 6:30. I'm at work by 7:15, and then I don't see him again till 5 p.m. And when I see him, he's going in a car seat. We're on the road for an hour. Like, those routines that we just settle into and we accept as normal.
Mm-hmm.
But when the pandemic hit, what it gave me was the time to really sit back and appreciate how blessed I am, how amazing my life is, and also evaluating what I've done up until this point. I mean, we talked about earlier, doing things to do things because you think you can and you have the skills, so you're taking on every project. I did that for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And this year gave me the opportunity to really think about the things I like doing and the things I didn't really quite enjoy. And I was able to really take the time and take a step back. So now, to now plan what I wanted to do, where to go. If you had asked me about my 5 years from now, 8 months ago, I couldn't have been able to give you that answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm so thankful for the gift of time that 2020 gave us.
That is so awesome. I thank you so very, very much.
You're welcome.
for being on today. And I would love for you to, for anyone that wants to reach out to you, how will they get in contact with you?
Yes. So my name is Victoria Downs. My company is the Village Creative Inc. So the Village Creative Inc. And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, as well as my website, www.thevillagecreativeinc.com. I also have my podcast, which is the Village Talk podcast, and you'll see the Village is really big for me. So if you Google the Village, hopefully the creative or talk or something comes up, but that's how they can reach me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so very much. And I am so honored for you to take the time to talk to me today. And I hope people comment, follow her, reach out. Everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs support. And have a good one.
Yay. Thank you.